all of you. It's good to be back in the workshop. Now, first of all, before we start, I would like to know just one thing from you. It will help me to help you in a better way. So, how many of you are going to write the exam for the first time? And I was expecting that. So, that's the reason. See, fortunately, I get a lot of chance to meet students who are writing exam for the first time or for the second time. But I thought that if you are in the first two attempts in UPSC, there should be a session which should be organized specifically for you. If either it is your first attempt or second attempt, because that is where the maximum confusion is. And we want to make the most out of the attempt that we have got. The kind of sacrifice that one attempt takes, only three people know about it. The students, their families, and the faculties, because we are all connected. So if you ask outside world, they will tell you, what if you do not qualify? It's a big thing, because it's not about an exam, it's about the time that you spend. That time is huge, and time is very crucial. Now, personal belief is that whenever you start, if you have a strategy, mind you, I'll use one thing today a lot of times, that we are not here to find shortcuts. We are here to find a strategy which might help us to crack the exam in whatever this attempt is for us. So if it is the first attempt or second attempt, ideally I am going to focus on that today. In the first two attempts, the biggest problem that we face is how much current affairs to do and from where. And number two, how to integrate static areas with current affairs. Third problem is I'm not prepared for the mains. What do I do? And the last problem is, and this third problem is a big problem, because suppose that this thought process gets into your mind that I'm not prepared for mains, what do I do? It's a very deadly thought. Why? Because suppose you have a huge potential to crack prelims, and suppose somebody tells you in the form of, let's say, mentors or your faculties or your friends, that okay, if you give your best in the prelims because somewhere you have that talent, we'll help you to manage the mains. Suppose that we have some sort of ideas which we can implement to crack the mains. I'm not going to use the word shortcut because I feel it's a very negative word for competitive exams, because there is nothing called shortcut. So instead of shortcut, the best word here that we are going to use is a strategy. So suppose that you have it inside you this year only, and I'll take two examples, where if you give your best with a proper strategy for prelims, you actually can make it. Doesn't matter if you qualify prelims with 1 mark margin or 5 marks. But suppose there is something inside you which tells you, I can do it. But then there is an overpowering thought which tells you, I'm not prepared for mains, so what do I do? So it's okay, let me focus for the next exam. This is a very negative thought. And if you almost like speak to 10 people, 8 will tell you, you are right. Because if you get stuck in a loop, then anyway, you won't be able to qualify the exam. It's not about that. So there is always a way which will take you to the most efficient solution. In economics, we call it as Pareto efficiency. Now, in terms of microeconomics, we call it as production possibility curve. So if you know the right sacrifices to make, you will reach the goal, what you are aspiring for. But you should know what to sacrifice. There is a very famous saying, there is a very famous line. They say that, you should know which bridge to burn and which bridge to cross. So if you know in terms of preparation that these are the things that I should be doing in the next few days, and these are the things which I should not be doing, half the problem is solved. And I'm very happy to announce one thing to you. See, there is a difference between arrogance and pride. And you understand. When you crack the exam, when you do good things in life, your parents are very proud of you. They're not arrogant. So we are almost like the same parents. So we are very proud of the fact that last year we started this current affairs batch in Vajiram. And it gave me one opportunity, which I was not getting earlier. So we created a team, we started this current affairs, and I learned something. There were a lot of students from the fresh batches who did not meet us at all when they were attending the GS classes with their problems. They were somehow studying, they were taking some advices from us on the side margins after the class, etc. Very basic ideas. All of a sudden, when we announced this mains batch for UPSC this year, we saw that, last year, 24, a lot of students from the current batches, like the J series batch, which was a last year batch, GS batch, a lot of students came and they said, already qualified, sir. Or some people also said that almost we feel we'll qualify with a good margin. I was surprised. Where were you? They said, sir, we had a strategy, we're following it. or we were under the mentorship of somebody, we are following that strategy. But the only problem that we faced was prelims was okay, mains was absolutely blank. So I have come to ask what to do for mains. So I ask a simple question that, do you want to enroll in a program or do you want to do self-study? If you want to do self-study, then I can tell you a different plan so that you do not have to go out of your house a lot. Because if you are in a PG and you are doing self-study because it's your first attempt, I think that's the best thing to do. But suppose you are in a panic mode and you feel that no, at your PG you cannot study because there are people who need peer group. If you see others also preparing with you, then you believe that you give your best. In that case, the idea will be different. But as a faculty, in a very unbiased manner, if you ever approach us and tell us that you want to do self-study, that will always be our priority. Okay, sit at home, study, and wherever you need help, you approach us. So this workshop I'm organizing specifically for one reason, that I want to tell you that if you want to go for self-study and prepare for this prelims, what exactly to do. Right, so there would be 3 elements. But then always remember that never go to 2 doctors for the same problem. So never approach 2 lawyers and 2 faculties for the same subject. It can be very deadly. Right? For a different subject, if you approach different faculties, that's great. But don't ask the same question to 5 people. You might get a different answer based on their interpretation. And especially if you have your own strategy and you feel that it's the best, you do not need to change it, do not change it. Have confidence in you. Because success has multiple strategies. I'm telling you this. From the past experience that I can see with my students, I feel that everybody has a unique strategy. So I would encourage you that if you have your own strategy, listen to what I'm going to speak in next few minutes. Now, if you feel some point is worthy of being implemented, please implement. If you feel that you do not require these things because your strategy looks more customized for your purpose, you follow your strategy. But if you feel even one point can be incorporated, incorporate the point. Because ultimately, you have to create a hybrid model which helps you. Now, if you have any doubts regarding the strategy that I'm going to tell you, so let me spell out the entire thing. And towards the end, if you feel that there is anything which needs clarification, I'm there. And if you need something very customized, that, okay, you are having this problem, I would like to address that problem from this platform only so that it helps others as well. So you understood, no, that why we have gathered? We have gathered, I repeat, that if you want to qualify prelims, somewhere you feel that it's there inside you. Just that there is one problem that you are not getting that confidence, or maybe that last trigger, which is in the form of a strategy, or what if I qualify prelims and not mains, then what happens? If these things are there in your mind. So I think that this is the right session that you have joined, because this will exactly be the strategy. Now, if you are an online student, then you have 2 platforms open. One is sessions like this, and at the end, I'll stay here to take your questions. Whatever questions you type, I'll give the answer on this platform only, so that your offline friends can also benefit from your queries. So offline queries will reach you, online queries will reach offline as well. So if you're trying to appear in 2026, then this strategy will also help you. The reason being that you must be preparing for the exam. That's why you are here. So if you're already preparing for the exam, follow this strategy. And in the end, you'll realize you will not lose anything. In fact, you'll always get a leverage. So let's see. So guys, the first thing I want to show you is this. You understand that 3 stages of the exam. Now, my focus will be slightly oriented towards current affairs. I'll tell you exactly where to I'll tell you exactly where to incorporate current affairs in your preparation, but static areas cannot be neglected. So I'll also focus upon static areas in today's workshop. So these are the 3 stages, precisely speaking, where current affairs is used. So I want to tell you one thing on the outset, that in prelims, roughly 1/3 of your paper is current affairs, direct current affairs. Indirect could reach up to 40-45%. That's indirect. I have got questions which I'll show you today. But direct current affairs is almost like 30-35%, 30-33%, roughly 1/3. So that's the importance of current affairs, first of all. Now, let's come to the second part. So in the prelims, and give me the liberty to express my honest opinion about the split of marks and subjects in prelims. So this is your prelims trend of past few years. I'm coming out of the frame, guys, so that you can have a good look at it. Now see, it might differ from some other trends which people are giving you. The reason being that, for example, here I have taken economics. Now in economics, I'm putting economics, agriculture, IMF, World Bank, these kind of institutions. So if I put all the schemes which come in the budget and survey, If I integrate everything, then it becomes almost like, let's say 20. This will go up to 20. If I don't integrate those things, then it will look like 16, 17, something like that. So this is 2024. And then you have 2023. See the trend: 2022, 18, 2021, 14, 2020. Look at this part. Look at this part. See this. But then something happened. And then it changed. And I'll tell you why it is good. Even though I teach economics, but I'll tell you why I like this part. This was biased. And in UPSC, if you're selecting the best officers for this country, you cannot be biased in a subject. You have to give equal opportunity to everybody from different backgrounds so that people have a fair chance to qualify the exam. So what has happened is, over the years, that is my observation, over the years, this biasness of one or two subject has been removed and it has become more balanced. See this? So that's why I'm really liking this, because in last 2-3 years, if you check, see, consistency, polity was really underemphasized here. 11 questions from polity, I don't agree. It should not be 11 or 10 or 7. Sometimes I remember that it used to be 7 also. That's not good, because you're trying to select the best brains for governance. So obviously governance aspect should be tested. So I believe this is better. And you see geography and environment. This part is amazing. Look at this. Earlier geography was single digit, roughly around this. Now look at this. Environment has never changed. It's evergreen. Now you have the science and technology. It will never change. It's around, let's say, 12, 13 questions. It's not going to change. It's really good that they have maintained this. Now look at history and culture. See, what has happened is, if you de-emphasize this, for example, a little bit number of questions down in history and economics. Economics used to be 25, now it's 17, so 8 questions gone. And from history, you can see it used to be 20, around 15, 20, which means that there is a decline of roughly 5 questions from here. Where did those questions go? These questions went to polity, geography, IR. That's your new set. This has become very important. So, and then you have miscellaneous current affairs. What is miscellaneous current affairs? So any current affairs related to economics, polity, environment, science, technology, I have put it here itself. Whatever is left, like sports, I have put it here. So if you frankly ask me that what should be the trend that you should be looking at, there are 2 types of trends. What is a long-term trend? So long-term trend might tell you something like this, that earlier some subjects were this important. Now it has become like this. You are in this phase. But anybody who tells you a shortcut and tells you follow that trend, there is a danger. You see this here. So anybody who was following this trend, suppose, and thinking that here also same trend will continue, it will keep going up. This year, it came down. This year, flat. What if this is your year and it goes like this? Some subjects, unnecessary importance given. Some subjects, the importance will be reduced. How do we know that? So if anybody tells you that let's follow a trend, I don't understand how can you bring a trend, because every few years, there is a break in the pattern. Who can give guarantee that this will not be that year? So if I'm putting my heart and soul into UPSC preparation, why should I follow a trend? Shouldn't be I ready for the exam so that whatever trend they create, I should be able to perform consistently and I should have a fair chance of qualifying the exam. So for that, first of all, get out of the trend mode for prelims. This is your first or second attempt, or perhaps next year will be your first attempt. The first lesson that you should learn is this can change anytime. So it's a myth that, because for these years, okay, if somebody is following a trend, I agree. But this year, there was no trend. There was a break. This year, there might be a break. Let's not do that. Then what is the strategy? If not follow a trend, then what's the strategy? The strategy is just look at these years, 2020 to 24, and get a feel. What feel are we getting? Mostly UPSC has moved towards balance, and there are new subjects like IR, and there are some miscellaneous current affairs. This is okay. If I'm not able to answer a question related to sports, I should not have sleepless nights. It's okay. But if I'm not prepared with IR, it's not okay. So that's one of the things that is very striking in this. And the second thing that is striking is this part. Look at that. So what you can identify from here is there are some subjects or there are some combinations which yield very high marks. So what I have done is, instead of creating a shortcut, I'm going to reshuffle everything And I'm going to create a combination of subjects. And then I'll tell you that is there a way out that you can handle those combinations well for this prelims. And how many days are left in the prelims? 124. How should you use 124 days exactly from today so that you should be able to cover all these things without predicting, without leaving anything? Uske liye there is a solution. The solution is this. So for example, let me tell you first question that comes in our mind when we prepare for UPSC. So you have to do current affairs for 10 months, 12 months, 15 months, 2 years. For how long should we go back in the past and start to do the current affairs for this prelims? Ideally, it is 1.5 years. If you ask that, if you do it for 1.5 years, you are good. If you do it for 2 years, best. But 2 years practically not possible. And frankly speaking, if you ask me, do you need to do 2 years of current affairs? No. Why? Because if you do 1.5 years, there is a pattern in current affairs that every 3-4 months, you will see the issues to be repeated. So if I'm doing 1.5 years, approximately 14 months, 13 months, that means I'm covering 16 months actually. Because whatever I'm doing from today past 15th month, that will have the news from 17th and 18th month as well. So if I do for 1.5 years, I should be in a safe zone. That's number one. Number two, as you can see, that in this entire circle, I have marked this as current affairs and this as static. 2/3 is your static, 1/3 is your current affairs. From current affairs, I have seen 3 types of questions. I've got a lot of questions today to show you. And you'll find something interesting also when I show you the questions, because it's not only from UPSC, but what I've been doing in last 2-3 months is I've collected all the questions from all the competitive exams which has happened in India, including CDS, state services like Bihar, UP, Karnataka, Telangana. Karnataka had 2 exams, right? So I collected that also. So we have got a huge sample of questions, and you understand that the people who frame those questions, they are equally experienced. So it won't be a surprise if we see similar kind of questions or similar kind of emphasis, not exactly identical, but similar kind of pattern being reflected in the UPSC as well. So this is your current affairs, where 3 types of questions are asked. One is direct current affairs. They will tell you that what is the fund allocated to Manrega. And number 2 would be applied current affairs, which I'll show you. Very deadly kind of questions can be created from this. So they'll pick the question from current affair and they will frame the question as if it looks like a static question. Example. Look at this, please. When I was coming to take your class, the workshop today, exactly half an hour back, I got this picture. I thought I'll use it. So India's rupee is under criticism. That rupee is declining a lot compared to dollars. Now, Government of India has given a rebuttal. Government of India says, don't blame rupee. I know I look bad. But if you look at other currencies, they look even worse. So what is India saying? India is saying, look at the fall in rupee compared to dollar, 3.6%. Look at the fall in British currency, 9%, in Japanese currency, Euro, Singapore, Canada, and Chinese currency. This is their condition. So now India is saying, yes, I look bad, but how bad? Because this is globalized world. So what question can UPSC ask you? Which of the following statement is correct? Statement number 1, there has been a decline in the value of rupee compared to dollar. Absolutely correct. Rupee has depreciated. Statement number 2, the dollar index has worsened for other currencies compared to rupee. Wow, what's this? Dollar index. What is dollar index? Dollar index would mean that you take a basket and put some of the best global currencies in this basket. All these global currencies you put here, whatever you see there, some of them, then you put dollar outside. And then you compare that in $1, if you wanted to buy this basket of other currencies, rupee is not there. Rupee is not included in that basket. Only some of the famous global currencies are included, like these. Why do you think only these currencies are mentioned? Because most of them are here in the basket. So if you want to find out with $1, how many of such baskets can you purchase? So earlier, suppose with $1, you could purchase, let's say, 1 basket. But now with $1, you can purchase 5 baskets. That means the value of this basket has come really down. They're doing worse. So if you compare like that, you'll see that rupee is doing relatively well. So if I were UPSC, which question will I ask? I'll ask you 3-4 questions. Number 1, Has the rupee depreciated against dollar? 100% yes, it shows there. Number two, what is the condition of other currencies? So instead of asking other currencies, I'll use the word dollar index. What has happened to the value of dollar index? Third, if I have to torture the UPSC aspirants, I'll ask which of the following currencies are included in dollar index. So it will look like a static question, which UPSC will very easily say everybody should know this. But then it is derived out of this current affairs news. So when you prepare for this exam, if somebody tells you there is a shortcut, you can cover everything in 5 days, where is the shortcut? Because if they start asking questions like this, and suppose there are 10, 15 questions like this, then so there is a problem. So that's why I thought that we'll have this workshop where if you are studying on your own, because you must be taking your GS classes or you would have done it by now. What next? So that what next should be answered with the help of these kind of things. So that's the first example that I was tempted to take in the class. Second example. So I'll give you two, three examples. Then I'll tell you my roadmap, which I feel that if it helps you, you can incorporate some of the points. Look at this question, please. This question has something interesting inside it. See. Consider the following statements regarding GST compensation cess. Okay, GST compensation cess. Why? Because GST compensation was supposed to start in 2017 and it was supposed to end in 2022. But the government of India says they want to continue. So now the state governments are saying there are 12 state governments in India who have written a letter and they have told the center that center, this is very bad because after COVID, we also got impacted. So if you want to continue collecting the GST compensation cess, from this cess, you were supposed to give us compensation because after GST was introduced, we face a loss of revenue. But you gave the compensation for 5 years. And then you said that I will not give you any compensation. Then why are you collecting the cess? And if you are still collecting the cess in the name of GST compensation, some benefits should reach us also. What did the government of India do? Government of India said, no, that's not going to happen because government of India took out one document which was signed by all the state governments when GST was introduced. What was written in that document? 2 points were written. All the states of India accept the compensation clause for 5 years only. It was written that we, the states of India, are ready, that center should give us compensation only for 5 years. The second point was very dangerous. The second point in that agreement was, if anything happens, which is unplanned event in the nature of epidemic or any problem, center is not liable to compensate us in terms of GST for that reason. So what happened? COVID happened. And now the states are saying we need COVID compensation. Center says why? So state says because you said you will help us. Center said where? In fact, we told you exact opposite. We will not help you. And you signed it. So guys, before you sign the documents, just be careful. There are people who will send you big text messages. Don't write okay before reading it. That can be very dangerous. Right? So state government signed it, now they are stuck. So that is there in the news. So if you have been reading newspaper in last 1 year, you will see it's a hot topic. So what question can be created? Just have a look at it. It says, consider the following statements regarding GST compensation cess. The GST cess duration was from 2017 to 2022. Right or wrong? Absolutely wrong. The GST compensation cess duration was not fixed. The GST cess, which is to be given to states, was fixed, that it will end in 2022. So cess was not fixed, that it will end. Compensation was fixed, that after collecting the cess, if I help you, that help will end in 2022. So center is telling everyone that this help will end in 2022, but the cess will not end in 2022 because we never wrote that cess will end. Wow. Look at center and state. So that's your first statement. Second statement, the center could provide the required amount to states only for initial few years. Absolutely correct. In the year 2017, 2018, 2019, center could easily compensate the states through the cess and say, take the money, be happy. But during the COVID, the GST collection fell. Center had no money. So center borrowed money from the market and gave it to states. So this statement is correct. Initially, center gave the compensation through cess. Later on, it was not able to give. So there was a problem. Third, cess collection by center till 26-27 would be used only to repay the loan of the center, which it has procured. So what did I tell you? In the year 2020 and 2021, the central government borrowed money from market and gave it to state and said, you be happy because I made a promise to you for 2022. But center borrowed funds. When you borrow fund, you have to return it. So center said, I will continue collecting the cess so that I can return the money. So that's why this is in the news. So this cess will continue till 26-27, which means exactly the time when you will appear in your UPSC interview next year. This year you will write your prelims. Next year you will appear in the interview probably this time. At that time, exactly at this time next year, center will remove this part and say, now the job is done. Right? It is possible. So this is in current affairs. So what did you see? That looks like current affairs, this part, but these two were conceptual. Already this was signed in 2017, and there was a proper theory related to it, called as revenue neutral rate, etc. So it's a great mix of current affairs plus static knowledge related to GST. So if you look for these kind of questions in the exam, I told you 1/3 is current affairs, which means roughly around 30-35 questions in prelims. But then the number of questions will go to 40-45 because one option will be current affairs. So it's not a current affairs based question, but one of the options is highly current affairs oriented. So it becomes a mix. These kind of questions are a favorite of UPSC these days. Why? I'll tell you the reason. If I'm a person who is framing UPSC papers, I want to test in my candidates, are they aware of the basic theories? Are they also updated? So I will create questions where 1 or 2 theories will be given like this and 1 or 2 current affairs. And then I'll have the smile and say, now answer the question. So how to be ready for all this? So let me go back to the theory part, the planning and strategy part, which I was telling you. So see, I told you that roughly it's 1/3, but it can go as high as, let's say, 40-45%. Then I showed you there are questions which are very applied in nature, and there are questions where interlinkages are there. We showed the interlinkages that suppose the value of rupee goes down. Abhi to rupee's value is going down against dollar. What is the impact on inflation? If the value of rupee goes down against dollar, then the tendency of inflation is to rise. Right? And now what has Government of India done? RBI has done. RBI has reduced the CRR, which means that we are expecting that in next few months, there might be some problem, some pressure on the prices. Might exist. Not sure, might exist. This is interlinkage based question. So how do you prepare for all this? See, I have mentioned 1 year 2015, where the number of current affairs questions were roughly 50 direct question. That's why I was telling you, there is no fixed trend. So I have made a plan for you where there is no shortcut. It will take almost like your entire time of the day. But if you feel it is worthy, I would suggest that take some points from there. So let me show you the plan. So first of all, this is the block which I have created for you. So I'm coming out of the frame, guys, so that you can have a good view. I'll explain all this to you. Now see, these are your main subjects that you have to study. So precisely speaking, there are 124 days left for prelims. I'm taking 1 day out because just 1 day before prelims, you might feel like, getting your acts together, relaxing a bit. So 123 days. Out of 123 days, I'm taking 11 days out for CSAT. Flat 11 days out. I'll tell you later on what is this 11. So 11 days out for CSAT. Now, whatever be the remaining number of days, 112 days, so we are going to divide it in 2 stages for your prelims. Now, what we have done is, I have taken these subjects based on their importance in UPSC exam in terms of efforts and returns. So whenever you go in, real life also, you see that you always try to evaluate an act or activity based on how much effort you put and how much returns you are going to get out of it. So what I have done is, instead of taking it as individual subjects, because when you create this kind of plan 1 year prior to your UPSC, then you should not follow this method. Then the method is take individual subjects. But when you do this preparation in the last 3 to 4 months before your prelims, then it should be in the form of blocks. So the first block is economics and polity. That is block 1. Second block is geography environment. You would have understood why. Now third block is science and technology, history and culture. You would have understood why. Because you will have to keep a lot of things in mind, retain a lot of things in mind. And this is very high yielding in nature. Yield is very high here. If you get a few questions correct, The answers could be found very fast, and the yield is also very good. And then you have kept this IR and miscellaneous current affairs, like 9 or 10 questions I'm keeping as block 4. So now what I feel we should be doing is, for example, I have created a plan for 92 days plus 6 days. What is this 92 days? So see, block 1 contains economics and polity. You understand these are heavy subjects, and you understand these are conceptual as well as memory-based things are also there in this subject. I can give you one example. Suppose somebody will ask you in the class that, can you give the formula of horizontal devolution, which is suggested by the 15th Finance Commission, horizontal distribution of resources between the states. Now, it is totally memory-based. There is a concept also, but UPSC is asking, this question has been asked in UPSC, that which of the following is considered under horizontal distribution or devolution of resources with their weights. So for example, there is this component called as income distance 45%, fiscal effort 2.5%, population 2011 census 15%, demographic efforts 12.5%, forest cover. These are the things, memory based. So in prelims, don't have this delusion in the mind that I don't have to memorize anything. You have to memorize. If you want to crack the exam, you have to be practical. So I'm taking this as block 1. Block 1, we are giving 30 days. 30 days means 1 month. But there is a catch here. The catch is this. This block has 2 subjects which are very heavy, economics and polity. Now suppose that UPSC says this year, I'm not going to ask 20 questions. I will ask, let's say, 12 questions only from here. And the 6 questions or 8 questions from economics will be shifted to polity, and polity will become 21. Quite possible. So if you take it as a block, what will happen is you will not overemphasize a subject, but you will prepare the subject as a block. So whatever permutation UPSC does, it can be taken care of. So now what you do is take these 2 subjects, spend first 15 days in economics, and the moment the 15 days are over, stop for a day, 1 extra day, and then you please take a test, either sectional, or if you want to take, let's say, 100 questions, 80 questions, 60 questions, depending on how much energy you have that day. So take 30, 40, 50 questions. Take some PYQs, take some test papers of any institute that you feel like solving. Because I believe everybody is making good questions. Questions are never bad. So you select any 30, 40, 50 questions, select some PYQs, and since you have just covered economics, try to solve the question the next day. So today is your 15th day, complete everything. Next day, no need to take a break. This is not the time for break. If you really want to crack the exam, this is the time where after 15 days, yes, little bit slowdown will happen. Solve questions. So after you solve questions for 1 day, next day, you set your target for polity. So 15 days of economics, 1 day of your test and question solving. At the end of the day, night, whatever questions you could solve, just stop. And then next day, the 17th day, you start your polity. And then for 15 days, you please continue. After 50 days, again, you take a 1 day break and you please solve some PYQs and some questions. Why this is strategy for you? Because perhaps you are going to, I told you that this session is specifically for those who are going to appear in UPSC either as the first attempt or the second attempt. If you already have tasted UPSC interview experience once, then your strategy could be a little different. Then you don't need 15 days, etc. I'll tell you in which case can you change this also. But let me go through an average cycle of preparation, that what you can do in the next few days. So this is one idea. Again, for block B2 geography environment, 15 days of geography followed by 1 day of test, 15 days of environment followed by 1 day of test. Again, we are not doing shortcuts and we are not selecting a subject, because look at the importance. It's almost equal. But later on, I'll tell you that where you can customize. Then you come to science and technology and history and culture itself is huge. So if you want to give, let's say here, science and technology, you want to give, let's say, 12 days, 10 days, fine. Remaining 20 days, you have to give to history and culture. Depends on your preparation. So this permutation, you can play around. But overall, you do not need to give more than 30 days to it. So suppose you are giving 15 days to science, example. Then on the 16th day, again, test. And then 17th day, you start your next subject, which is history and culture, followed by a test. So what will happen is, again, IR. But for IR and miscellaneous, you give 2 days only, because they don't ask you big IR theories here. They don't ask thinkers and philosophers. They ask you simple things like last year, the question was that what was the theme, example, what was the theme of the G20? Simple questions are asked, which is easily doable. Returns are very high here. IR happens to be the game changer here, because 5 or 6 questions from IR, if you're getting it all correct, imagine where your score will go. Returns are very high here. So you spend 2-3 days here. So if you see everything, this is your first stage, 92 plus 6, 98 days done. The moment you complete this, if you want to take a 1 day break, take it. If you want to change your strategy in between, for example, after this, you want to do CSAT for 10 days, do it. There's no problem. But if you feel that you have that energy left, and after this, you are ready to take the next stage, you can go for the next stage also. But personally, I feel that after this, you should do a little bit of CSAT if you haven't done it already. As I told you that I'm assuming you are going to appear in UPSC for the first time or second time, and perhaps your CSAT preparation is not that great. I'm not saying you don't know maths or RC, you know everything. But suppose you are not in touch, because graduating from the college has been very long time. It's been almost been 1 or 2 years, and then you need that polishing. Or maybe you're not very confident and you understand what CSAT can do with us. So if you take a nice positive break called as CSAT, if you don't want to take 11 days break, take a 5 day and do CSAT stage 1 in between these two. Once you do CSAT and get your confidence back, then you start this second phase. The second phase contains 14 days of preparation. What is this second phase? The most crucial phase, which will decide how much you get in, how much marks you are going to get in your prelims. And this phase is the revision phase. This was your preparation phase, consolidation phase, where whatever you have learned, whatever notes you have in terms of material, class notes, you are going to use it. But how do you revise? Because without revising, next to impossible to reproduce in the exam. So how do you revise? Again, block 1, you start with block 1. Economics, you have to give 2 days, and then polity, 2 days. This will help you to revise. I know that there would be a lot of things that you will have to leave. I told you that I'll later on tell you also that which bridge to burn and which to cross, because you'll have to make a list of topics that these are the topics that I will revise. These are the topics which I will not revise. This topic listing has to be done. I'll tell you a method, I'll tell you a way out about how to do that. So, but you have to give 2 days for economics, 2 days for polity. Look at this part. In your second stage, if you focus, I have kept government schemes, budget and survey in stage 2 for 1 day. And I'm saying that in 1 day, you should do a little bit of revision of that. Why? Because here when you do economics, you have to do, because budget and survey will be released very recently, or 1st of Feb, you'll find everything. So what you can do here, if you start with economics, little bit of study can go here also. 1 or 2 days you can spend here also. But here in 1 day you have to revise. How will you do that? Revision in 1 day? That revision in 1 day can be done only under one condition. You have to arrange some notes or compilation from some place, some institute. So I'm telling you that, again, very candid, and almost, I don't want to sound diplomatic here, so because it will hurt your interest. So keeping your interest as priority, I believe that almost everybody is doing a good job in compilation. I believe whatever compilation you pick for schemes, etc., I have never seen bad compilation as such. I've seen that it's decent. So just like we create compilations, if you are following, because many of you might be following other compilations also, whatever language suits you. So safely you can use other compilations also. But if you are a student of Vajiram and you have been studying with us, it helps to do the same thing in the same language, the way you have been taught GS. But if you are from other institute and you have been following other magazines or compilation, I don't feel it is bad. I think it is good. I have seen the compilations. They look decent to me. But if you are following Vajiram, that's also great, right? So there is no discrimination here. And wherever this thing is not holding, whenever other compilations and materials are not good, I'll let you know. And that too very honestly. But I feel the scheme compilation, etc., of everybody is decent. So you follow any compilation you feel like. Now it comes to economic survey and budget. Now, economic survey and budget, since I've been teaching this since a long time now, economic survey and budget, it started with passion, a lot of passion, and then it became an obsession, economic survey and budget, because it gives me an idea to see what government is thinking. So I would suggest that you can watch the videos which I create whenever survey and budget will be out. And whatever I tell you in that video that these are important things, you can jot it down, or you can take your notes out of it. It will help you. So I'll try to make sure, like last year I tried. So this year also I'll try to make sure that the videos are not very lengthy, not very heavy. I'll try to use, as I have used in the past also, very easy to grasp language. So your budget and survey can be taken care of. In the videos that I make for budget and survey, we do schemes also. Like last year, we did almost like 35 to 40 schemes in that budget video. Same thing we'll do this year as well. But however, if you feel you do not have time to watch those videos, no problem. I told you this session is for your self-study and self-preparation. So arrange some compilation either from us or any place, read it. But this you should be doing here. Why? So that it should be easy for you to reproduce in the exam. And by the time you go in your second phase of preparation, some solid compilation will come in the market. Because initially the compilations are not good, because anybody writes anything. But later on, the quality of the compilation improves and you can save your time. This is one smart strategy you can create. Now, in block 2, for revision for geography and environment, you should give 3 days. And then for block 3, science and technology and history, you have to give 5 days. 2 days for science and tech and 3 days for history. See, history is taking more time here. See, economics is taking 2 days only, but history and culture will take 3 days. It's lengthy. The content is huge and you have to respect the content. And then for IR and miscellaneous, 1 day. If you feel you have to revise international organizations or IR related news, 1 day. So this is your 14 days news, which means 2 weeks. After you do all this, let me tell you something interesting about it. After you do all this stage 1 and stage 2, if you add everything, and if you add the 11 days of CSAT, it's almost like 123 days covered. Now, I have a suggestion, customization now. Then I'll show you something else. Now, suppose that you are good in polity, or you are good in economy, or you are good in history. You see what you can do, how you can play around with this now. So what you need to do is, if you are very good in economy or polity, let's say, so here this 30 days will come down to 25. And you know it. If you are really good in something, there must be some subject where you feel that your confidence is not very high. Suppose naturally you are not good in memorizing things. Then you will face a problem in these subjects. For example, let's say environment, you have to memorize science and tech, history and culture. So if you save 5 days here, you can put it here. Did you notice something that here, I'm not overstuffing you with a lot of test series, and I'm not telling you that every second day you should sit and write test series. Why? There's a reason. If this I leave up to you for customization, and that's what I'm going to speak now. So first, customization number 1, if you feel you are good in some subject, save some days. And if you're not good in some subject, try to put those days there. But luckily in your preparation, and I'm telling you this with a lot of responsibility, I know it is true. If you ask your heart and soul, you'll get an answer that one cannot be bad in everything. If you look carefully, you will always find your strength here. And your heart will tell you that, yes, I'm good in block 1 or block 2. Suppose luckily your preparation so far in prelims, because of attending lectures, reading, etc. Suppose that in 3 subjects you are doing well. Let's suppose that economy, polity, and geography, you are doing well. You will be able to save a lot of days here. You will be able to save 5 days in total out of this. So save 3-4 days here, 1 day or 2 days here. 5 days saved, because you'll do it fast. Because if you are good in something, you increase the speed. 5 days saved. That 5 days you spend in solving MCQs and PYQs. Based on the subjects where you feel that your confidence is low. Suppose your confidence is low in history, but you are very good in block 1 and 2. So in block 1 and 2, save 5 days, spend 1 or 2 extra days in history, and 4 days or 3 days which you save overall, you spend that in solving PYQs and MCQs, sectional MCQs related to history. This customization you have to decide. Why are we doing this? Why are we not giving almost like, even if I'm good in this subject, let me give 30 days. Why? Because this is exam time. The strategy has to be a little different. I know that, you must be feeling that, no, but what if I study economics less, it might hurt me. No, but if you don't prepare history well, it might hurt you more. Because what if the paper is heavy towards history? How can you disrespect a paper? Because in UPSC, one should not be doing all this. So if you look at the past trend, it was so easy for me to say that focus on economics, polity, geography, you will crack the exam. Really? But who told me this? UPSC paper setter. That, tell this to everyone that 3 papers, if they study, they'll crack the exam this year. It should not be done. For UPSC, it should not be done. So don't play with fire. Be practical. Be ready to work hard. This will hurt you. This will make you work almost like 10, 12 hours a day. So hurt you in the sense that you'll have to sit a lot on your study table. But you are ready for that. That's the reason that you have started to prepare for this exam, isn't it? You are motivated. You don't need external motivation. You don't need to watch those 60-second reel, how to live life. Right? You know how to live life. You are experts, you know it. Anybody at your young age, if you have decided to prepare for this exam, 100% you have maturity. Otherwise, you would not have decided. Right? And don't watch that IIT Baba interview. So don't watch. Right? I mean, now is not the time. I know some of you must be motivated and thinking that this is cool. Let me try it for 2 years for a change. Don't do it. And this is cool. This is cool. This is the new cool. Right. So guys, as I was telling you that this is the block that you should follow. And I told you that if you can save 5 days here, put it in your test series. That's number one. Number two, let me take one example. This example will help you to understand that what exactly should be the dynamics of the subject. Like today, you must have noticed that we have written something here. Strategy session 1. Strategy session 1 would mean that, and by the way, there is no magic formula in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, find out everything, crack the exam. For no exam, this formula works. So you have to build this base piece by piece. So today is overview, and I'm going to focus on 1 or 2 areas. Then we'll have another session very soon where we'll focus on some other subject. So overall thing done today, 1 or 2 subjects I'll focus today and remaining subjects in other session. So that if you start to implement something like this and if you face any issues, you should let us know. So that will help you to customize it, right? So let me give you an example of economics only, first of all. You see how many average questions from economics every year? Roughly around 20. But then I showed you that in last 2 years, the number of questions have been just 17 or 16 or something like that. But why average comes out to be 20? Because economics here does not contain economics. Economics here contains these subjects also. So let us see what are the components that are being asked here. That's why it becomes 20. First is economics, hardcore economics, roughly 14. This is the pattern which I have deciphered after doing a little bit of research on this. Agriculture 2. 1 or 2 questions you will see related to agriculture. Schemes 3. You will see some scheme related questions in the exam. And multilateral development bank like IMF, World Bank, ADB, IIB, or some meetings like G20, etc. You will see at least 1 question which has an overlap with economics. This is what I have found. Now, how to tackle this? To tackle this, as I was telling you, and I told you that very honestly, I'm going to tell. For this part, we have made some solid notes out of all the multilateral development banks. And if you are my GS student, you must be having it by now. Because I released all those videos for you guys. The videos must be there in your account. And if you are my current affairs student, you would have the same videos. So I have given the same video to both of you with the content, whatever is required. In that video, I have drawn some diagrams for multilateral development banks and institutions, all the details there. You can easily use it. You don't need to prepare anything extra. But suppose by chance or unfortunately, you have not been getting any chance to attend any of the lectures with me, either in GS or current affairs, anywhere, no problem. Then you can refer to any notes, whatever is available. Just make sure that you update it with some current developments and current affairs. Like India had the presidency of G20 in 2023, but in 2024, India's good friend Brazil had the presidency. So you try to find out that what were the decisions taken in 2024 Brazil presidency, what was taken, the decisions taken by India in the Indian presidency, and the difference between them. It's hardly 5 or 6 points of differences. If you do this, your G20 will be ready. Similarly, there is a talk about BRICS currency. So you should be knowing that if you want to create a currency in the world, what are the 4 or 5 conditions? That's it. And you should also be knowing that IMF has given a condition, 2 conditions for a currency to become global currency. If you know those 2 conditions, awesome. So the moment you hear these kind of news, you should be knowing. For example, your country should be the top 5 exporter in the world. And the second condition is, according to IMF standards, your currency should be globally acceptable. These are the 2 conditions. So India wants its currency to be global, which means if India wants its currency to be global, first we have to convince IMF that our currency is globally acceptable. And number 2, we have to replace an existing global currency in top 5 and we have to make a place there. But the third thing which is also true about global currencies is, which is absolutely correct, that these countries which want their currencies to be global have to be top class, top 5 in the world in terms of defense capability. Because if you cannot defend your borders and central bank and your territorial integrity, then people who are holding your currency, where will they go? So suppose Indian rupee is held by a lot of countries in the world. Our defense is very weak. Somebody attacks us and we lose our control, territorial integrity and control. Sovereignty is under threat, and we are subjugated to a power. Anybody who had faith in our currency and is holding the currency, thinking that Indian currency is global, and IMF gave a stamp, what an embarrassment it will lead to, and what an economic loss it will happen to those people who are holding the currency. So that's why this third condition is very important, that you should be able to defend your currency. You should have that defense capability. These are the three conditions. So now let's come back. So as I was telling you, this you should do from notes. Do not try to find a textbook for this, because current developments cannot be captured. This is highly current affairs oriented. Schemes, where should you do your schemes? I can tell you a safe place. If you read economic survey and budget summary from some place, be it from Vajiram, be it from any place, if you read the summary, economic survey and budget, roughly 30 to 40 schemes are discussed in our summaries every year. 30 to 40. The questions that you will get in UPSC will be from those 30 to 40 only. It has always happened. There might be one scheme here and there which might be asked outside that. I'm not saying that it will not happen. But 99% cases, if you do those 30, 35 schemes with us, or any place, any compilation, as I told you, compilations are never bad, because it's not a research paper. It's just reproduction. So if you do that compilation from us or anywhere else, I can assure you that those 35 to 40 schemes are asked in the exam. So make sure that you arrange this from any place where you have faith. Just do it. It will help. But do it from some compilation. That's number one. Why? Because if you read a thick book about that, so there will be roughly around 120, 130 schemes from various ministries. How will you memorize? Practically, it is not feasible. And I gave you in the schedule just one day to revise these schemes. How will you do that? 35 schemes revising in one day possible. But more than 35, 40 schemes revising in one day, little difficult. So keep it to 30, 35 so that you should be able to memorize also. Fine. Now, next one is agriculture. Again, for agriculture, I would say that if we were having this kind of workshop almost like 8-9 months back, I would have suggested a book to you that study this book for agriculture. But this is not the time for books. So what you should do is, if you have attended GS lectures anywhere, take your GS lectures, take your class notes, and make sure that you take any 1-year compilation which is available with any of the institute. Our compilation is also out. This time, I can tell you with full confidence, because my team has worked on that, and our team has done a really good work in the compilation. We were all a part of it. So if you follow that compilation, you can see that agriculture related pages are dedicatedly given. So from there, you can pick up the agriculture related stuff. So class notes plus that, sufficient. Because most of the things that will be asked from agriculture in the prelims, it will be current affairs oriented. So that compilation should definitely help. But however, if you are following somebody else's compilation, again, as I told you, that in current affairs, nobody is bad, because the content is given by the government of India. So yes, prelims quick revision book that you are getting from Vajiram, that's a good one. This year, it's really good. The people who have worked there, they have worked really hard. I have seen that book. I'm reading that book. And in our current affairs classes, we take points from there also, because we also contribute there, and we teach something extra compared to that as well. So full faith in that book. But if you are following somebody else, I don't see a problem. I'll tell you where the problem would be. Here, I don't see a problem. Now, so which means that your agriculture scheme and this, I'm telling you that you should rely more on class notes plus some compilation from the institute wherever you have faith or wherever you have studied, including ours. So that should not be a problem for you. Of course, yes. Now, suppose you have been following monthly magazine. Should you abandon it? Never. Because whatever you studied, if you revise from there, revision will become quick. But suppose you have not been consistent in the monthly magazine, then can you refer to those quick revision books that we provide or somebody else is providing? Then that should be a good strategy for you. There will be compromise. If you read that compilation, there will be a compromise of 10%. But that 20-25% will be in your hand. And I told you that if you know how to make the right compromises, your selection in the exam will become comfortable. But if for current affairs, I'm going to spend next 1 month hunting for a material, thinking that, I didn't prepare the current affairs well, so let me spend 1 month in current affairs. You know what you are doing? You are spending 1 month for 30 questions. And I told you by showing all this that then what will happen is one of the big blocks that I created for you will be compromised. And there is no guarantee that if you spend 1 month for current affairs, you will be able to answer all 30. So what you should do is very smartly select these areas. Almost guaranteed that return is very high here. like multilateral development bank, international institutions, highest return. Then you have schemes, very good returns. And then you have agriculture, very good returns. And then you have economics, hardcore economics, roughly around 14 questions. There also the return is very high. And I'll show you which areas to focus today for economics. And when would I show you for schemes, etc.? Let the budget and the survey come on first. Instead of showing it to you, I would like to teach it to you. So I'll bring a video for you guys and you can directly watch it from there. So this is saved. This either you use the notes which I have provided this year or you use anybody else's notes, but make sure that you use some notes for this. Why? Because it is current. Let me tell you for economics how to handle those 14 questions, and same strategy we should follow for polity and other subjects. I'll make sure that we give you more strategies for other subjects also in the coming days. But let me start with economics first. Let's have a look at some questions this year. All the state services, some past UPSC questions, CDS paper. So I've created a combination. These are all fresh questions which have been asked in various competitive exams in last 2 months. Let's read the question. Let's see. So the first question says, under normal downward sloping demand curve. Wow, micro. Normal downward sloping demand curve. So the keyword is micro downward sloping demand curve. Then fully elastic supply curve. Okay, fully elastic supply curve. Which means I need to know that when is the demand curve normal and when is the demand curve not normal, but like this. I should know that, number one, which means when I revise economics, I'll focus on two shapes of the demand curve, normal and upward sloping. Because I know that for normal goods, it's like this, but there are 2-3 more goods. One is inferior goods, one is Giffen goods, and one is Veblen goods. So I will check which good fits in not so normal demand curve, which means now it has become a target of the exam. Let me show you something else. It says an exogenous decrease in demand. Okay, exogenous. Exogenous would mean external influence. So if something happens outside which affects my demand, then they are saying what will happen, which means a typical micro question from NCERT is given in NCERT, beautifully given in NCERT. Now, look at this part. It says elastic supply curve. The moment I read the word elastic supply curve, two things will come to my mind. First, demand and supply. This point is called equilibrium. And they are saying that externally, if demand is affected, example, suppose demand curve shifts either up or down. So which means your equilibrium point will shift. But suppose I'm reading this question and I'm preparing for UPSC. What will I take away from here? I'll take this from here that, oh, some expert who is making the paper, they are focusing on micro first of all. So micro should not be neglected. Number two, first I need to study demand curve, supply curve, which I will from NCERT. Second, I need to find out what are the types of goods that exist in the economy. The first type of good in the economy will be, for example, normal good, then inferior good, Giffen good, Veblen good, luxury items. These are the goods in the economy. I'll prepare the definition of all of this in one line. I'll do that. Then I'll prepare substitute. I'll prepare also complementary goods. These two things also I'll prepare extra. Then they have used the word elasticity. So now I'll prepare the word elasticity. Elasticity of demand, elasticity of supply, elasticity of income, and then tax elasticity. These are the only elasticities that are there for UPSC preparation. And now I will ask a question to myself that why would finance minister increase tax or cost? Why would the finance minister increase the taxation on luxury items very frequently? The tax is high on luxury items, I agree. But does it change every day? It doesn't. Why? Because in luxury items, people are very sensitive. If you increase the price, they'll postpone consumption. Wait for a price. So in luxury items, if the price increases, elasticity is very high and people like to wait. But in normal items like salt and sugar, even if the tax increases, will you buy less of salt? You are buying one packet of salt every month, you will buy it. If you are the and you your will salt, you know if you tax over example popcorns, nobody will react. Why? When you go to watch movies, you will buy it anyway. Why? You don't do it every day. So you'll say it's okay, one-time phenomena. Oh, that means they're trying to find out what are the areas where we react. So don't react something demand is inelastic. Finance comes, you are not reacting, increase the tax. And if you react, they will not increase the tax. So are you understanding how you should be behaving in real life also? Don't sound very desperate in front of people, right? Because then they will feel, oh, you are desperate. You'll be exploited. So stand like this and say, it's okay, whatever you do, I'm not going to plead in front of you. It's fine, I won't react. Right? So act tough. So life mein thoda rule is different. But in taxation, the rule is different. What is the rule in taxation? The rule in taxation is the less you react, the more you suffer. And what is that reaction called as elasticity? So if I have to prepare for UPSC and prepare for this concept, how will I prepare? I'll just replace the word elasticity with the word reaction. And then I will ask myself, in what substances or commodities do I react very bad? If I react very bad in luxury items, that means my demand is very elastic. You change the price, I'll stop consuming that. So if you replace the word elasticity with reaction, you'll be able to solve all these questions. These are the kind of things that you have to pick from NCERT. Example, look at the second one. Here you go. What is there? This says, which of the following statement is not correct? We are not interested in this. We are interested in finding out how to take out the right message. The first is positive externality. Oh, we should know what is positive externality. That means we should be knowing it. Otherwise, we won't be able to solve it. This is this year's question, CDS. Look at the last part, negative externality. Okay, I should know negative externality also. So suppose that I start to play music and you are my neighbor and you really like the music. You start to dance. So my song is your positive externality. But you are preparing for UPSC and I'm playing loud music, it affects you negatively. That's negative externality. So same thing can be positive, same thing can be negative also. Are you understanding this point? Yeah, see, that's the beauty. So it depends on the context. Music can be positive also for me, but during exam, it can be a killer. Now, look at another word, tragedy of commons. Wow, what a word. So it says tragedy of commons is positive or negative externality. The word says tragedy. How can tragedy be positive? Answer is negative. But what is the logic? Logic is different. I'll tell you what is the meaning of tragedy of commons. Has anybody ever told you why taxation is imposed on society? That because social welfare, etc., is important. Yeah, that's the most important argument for taxation. No, that is one of the arguments. There is another argument. I'll give an example. Now think about it. Think, introspect, and then you'll see the answer. So what happens is, for example, let's say government of India is providing defense services to everyone. Now government of India says to the society, 141 crore people, that please contribute willingly so that we can maintain forces in India. Right? We'll say, okay. What will be the reaction? My first reaction will be, government, are you watching us? No, I'm just giving you a box, this type of box. Take out cash from your pocket like this and please contribute. Everybody will come with a box. The moment this box will reach me, I look at it and say, oh, nice. And I'll just feel it. I'll feel it like this. Ah, money is there. What will I do? I was about to contribute, but now I will not. Why should I contribute? Because my neighbor will contribute. Obviously, I know that people want defense. They will contribute. What will my neighbor think? My neighbor will think that I contribute. Thinking my neighbor will contribute. So who will contribute? Nobody. Tragedy of commons. We have overused defense because we all will say, no, we need defense. China is there. Overuse of defense. Every day we'll say, where is defense? Where is defense? China should not attack us. But when it comes to payment, we'll say, sorry, talk to neighbor. Are you seeing this problem now? So that's your tragedy of commons which has happened. This is also called as free rider's problem. What is free rider? Somebody is driving a bike. I just hop onto the bike from behind. I'll say, take me to the destination. Matlab, you pay. Right? So you pay, I'll enjoy the defense. So in case of public goods or goods of mass consumption, two things will happen. First, free rider problem. You pay for it, I'm fine. Tragedy of common means everybody will over-exploit the situation. So we want defense, defense, defense. We'll scream, where is defense? When it comes to payment, free rider. Neighbor, you pay. So what is this? Negative externality. So it's great negativity. Now, what does government do in this case? Government will say, hold on. Either society you pay or I'll put a tax. In these cases, government of India will put a tax, assess, a surcharge. Did you understand this logic? This question was based on that theory. Where will you find this? Our very own NCRT. Right? These kind of things are, what is the meaning of commons, tragedy of commons? What is the meaning of common? Common resources, public goods. So whenever it comes to public resources, we overconsume because we feel, theek hai na, neighbor will pay, why should I pay? So let me overconsume it. Right? This theory was based on that. So this is one of the questions. Look at another question, a beauty. This is UPSC this year, 2024. This is CDS. Let's see the question. The question says, consider the following statements regarding instruments of monetary policy. Standing deposit facility was introduced in 2022 during COVID time, just after COVID. Yes, it was introduced around COVID time. Factual. Either you know whether it is 2021 or 2022. Matlab, you should know precisely the date. Factual. Look at this part, conceptual. SDF rate replaced fixed reverse repo rate as the floor rate of LAF. This question is saying that there is something called LAF. What is LAF? LAF is a window which is between repo, and earlier it was between repo and reverse repo. But now the system of reverse repo has been made redundant by RBI. RBI says there is nothing called reverse repo. I am making it sleep. So we put it in sleep mode and we have replaced it with standing deposit facility. So now your LAF is a distance between these two. That's your question. UPSC said, can NBFCs come and borrow using LAF? Which means LAF is so important, everybody wants to know. Every competitive exam, that's your first option of UPSC 2024 prelims. So everybody wants to know what is LAF, everybody wants to know who can participate. So if you make a list of which agencies in India, which banks, you have scheduled commercial banks, non-scheduled commercial banks, you have cooperative banks, you have local area bank, you have payment bank, a small finance bank, so many type of bank, make a list and try to find out which are the banks which are eligible to borrow under LAF. If you make a list and what is the corridor of LAF, this is the corridor. If you know these two things, you can answer this question any day. Even if you are not in the best of your mood to answer, still you will be able to answer correctly. But you need to know what is LAF and which banks can participate and whether NBFCs can participate or not. It's very crucial. So you see the type of questions they are asking. So you understand what you have to study in economics, which means definitely there are some areas where the potential of questions being asked is very high. So it's not a shortcut. It's a proper researched fact which we are going to use. I'll give you the summary towards the end and tell you which areas to focus. So this is one. Again, nothing to show off, nothing to flaunt, but a matter of pride. And I remember that those of you, and there must be some of you, I can see, for example, one of the students from Smart Current Affairs is here. So last year when we started the Smart Current Affairs just before the prelims, I remember the last class that we had, exactly last class before prelims, we studied LAF. Because just towards the end, there was a news related to LAF. So it's nothing that we dreamt about it and we are great souls, so we know this. No. It came in the newspaper. We just did it in the class, as simple as that. Last class, LAF, UPSC prelims, question. Newspapers have very good returns if you know what to pick. So this is one. Next is this. Does it make sense to you? See, beautiful question, very recent question. It says, which of the following indicators are used to observe the monetary transmission? RBI has recently complained that monetary transmission in India was supposed to be better. Even now, it is not great. And this question figured in the recent state exams. This is from a state exam, recent as in 1 month back. So they are saying there is something called monetary policy transmission. In monetary policy, you have to study only two things. First, the technical parts. What is monetary policy? What are the tools? And the second is monetary policy committee. And this thing, monetary policy transmission, is a part of monetary policy committee. They decide how to improve monetary policy transmission. It's limited only. It's not unlimited, very limited. Okay, what is this? So it says, what is the meaning of monetary policy transmission? If Reserve Bank of India reduces repo rate, or if Reserve Bank of India reduces CRR, example, does the benefit get reflected in the society when people take home loans? Does it happen? If it happens, to what extent does it happen? If RBI reduces the rates by 4%, do people get 4% benefit? No. How do you know people are not getting 4% benefit? Which indicators tell you that? That's the question. Do you see this question now? which indicators will tell you that actually the transmission is not good. So you understand that currently we are following external benchmark rate, but before that we were following the MCLR. So if I have to find out whether RBI's benefit is reaching me or not, I will go to a bank and say, can you give me home loan? If bank will say, I will give you home loan, but very high rate of interest, I'll say, Arey, you are not giving me the benefit of RBI. Oh, that means that can be used to find out the benefit. Number two, if I deposit money in a bank and RBI has increased the rate of interest everywhere, so bank should also give me high rate of interest on fixed deposit. If RBI increases the interest rate, I should also get high interest rate, but I'm not getting it. I'll say, bank, you are cheating me. So yes, lending rate, deposit rate, MCLR, all these things might help me to understand what is the reality of monetary transmission. That's your question, which means monetary policy is a hot topic. So if you have to spend those 15 days in preparing economics, monetary policy has to be a part of it. Look at this question. Which of the following statements are correct? Most of India's reserve is held in the form of foreign currency. There is no cost of holding foreign currency in the reserves. Why this question? Because currently the rank of India in terms of forex is top 4 in the world. 4th position has been achieved by India in the list of foreign exchange holders. So this question is from a state service which happened 1 month back. So they're asking the current affairs question, but they have converted the current affairs into a conceptual question. They are saying, in the forex reserves of India, can you please tell me what are there in the forex reserves of India? Number 1, foreign currency assets. Number 2, gold. Very nice. Number 3, SDR. Number 4, reserve tranche position. All these things are there. So this question is asking, which of the component has the highest presence? Foreign currency assets. They have the highest presence. And second, this question is asking, if RBI holds more forex reserves in the hand and doesn't release it in the economy to the banks, etc., there is no cost. Of course, there is a cost. Can I tell you the cost? Suppose RBI holds gold and the price of the gold crashes. Gone. You are gone. And RBI holds, suppose, Canadian currency, and tomorrow Canada as a country fails. I'm just saying hypothetically. Right? What will happen? Problems will happen. You understand, no? Big loss for us. Why did I say that? Because see, what is US doing? US is saying, Canada, you come to my family. Unbelievable. Well, I'm going to my neighbor and telling them, let's merge the house, but I will control you. Wow. Right? So that's why this question. So can you see current affairs and static, a great combination? Now here you see what is mentioned, digital rupee, UPSC question. Why? Last year something happened. So last year in economic survey, there was a page given. What was written in that page? That Reserve Bank of India has started to use digital rupee in the retail market and in the wholesale market. So there are 2 types of digital rupee pilot projects started. You see the question there. So it's not a coincidence. Pilot project is going on. So a question. Now look at this with reference to Digital India land records modernization. You understand that land records are being digitized. It's a syllabus of mains asked in prelims. Again, look at this now. This is from economic survey. That's why I told you that if you read economic survey and budget, these questions you can easily answer. What does it say? Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana. Again, this is from economic survey, the scheme. And 1 or 2 more miscellaneous questions are there, but let's come back to the main part. What to do in economics? I told you that today I'll be talking about economics, agriculture, etc. So to begin with, what to do in economics? Which are the areas that I need to focus? So I've created a list for this year. Next year, the list might change, but this year, this is the list. What is there in the list? Let's read. So to my online students, guys, I'm coming out of the frame. So please focus on the list and see if it makes sense. Let's read it. So the first one says micro and macro. The source would be primarily NCERT. And this year, I would suggest that we should focus on demand, supply, equilibrium, and market. What are the types of market? Perfect competition, monopoly, different type, right? Monopsony. What are the type of market? Then you please focus on elasticity. Which are the types of elasticity that you will focus? Price, income, tax, and cross elasticity. So these are the elasticities: price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, tax elasticity, and cross elasticity. These are given in NCERTs. Please focus this year on that. I'm expecting some questions from these areas. Then you should also study what is the connection between elasticity of demand and supply and taxes. And I gave you a jugaad to answer that question. Whenever somebody will ask you that, suppose demand is very elastic, should the government put a tax? Demand is very elastic, immediately you should replace the word elastic with reaction, that my demand will react very fast. So if government puts a tax, I'll stop consuming it. I'll say I don't need it. I'll reduce my consumption. So whenever demand is very elastic, government refrains. Government says, don't touch luxury items. But if demand is inelastic, government says, come, let's put a tax. Because where will people go? If you put a tax on salt and sugar and popcorn, where will people go? Right? Tomorrow, if the government puts a tax on smile, right? What will you do? Stop smiling. Stop smiling. Simple. Always be serious. Right? So reaction will stop. So these are the things that we do. National income accounts, you understand that since last 2 years, a lot of questions have not been asked from national income accounts like GDP, GNP. And you understand UPSC has a bad habit. If they don't ask something in 2 years, third year, pakka they will ask that question. So because they feel so restless that, oh, since 2 years, I have not made a call. I mean, I have not asked a question. This is the perfect month, January. Right? So national income accounts. You understand, no? Like national income accounts, very, very important, okay? Now you have this, here you go, this block. What is this? Is this for prelims or mains? Ideally, this is for mains. But why is it in news? I'll tell you 2 reasons. One, Dr. Thomas Piketty was in India. Dr. Geeta Gopinath was in India. And there is a new economist who is also doing excellent work exactly like Dr. Thomas Piketty. And he's our Monetary Policy Committee member, Dr. Ram Singh. They are doing great work in the field of inequality, poverty, and development. And almost like 10 days back, there was an article in the Indian Express by Dr. Ram Singh related to inclusive growth, where he wrote, for the first time somebody wrote such article, where he writes that India is severely criticized because they say we have not done anything in inclusive growth. He says, let me show you the bright side. So he said, these are the things that we have done in last like 20, 30, 40 years. So he said, our efforts are giving results also. So it's in the news. This debate is in the news. India is claiming everywhere that we have been able to reduce poverty by taking out 25 crore people out of poverty line. So India is saying we have taken 25 crore people out of poverty. It's in the news. So you have to prepare for prelims. Financial inclusion is in the news. So we have to prepare for prelims. What are the efforts related to financial inclusion? So they will mention 4 points and they will say, which of the following points leads to financial inclusion? Do you know what was asked in Karnataka exam, Karnataka State Services, the second Karnataka exam which happened? They asked this question, which of the following leads to higher financial inclusion? Number 1, nationalization of bank. So they said, which has the potential to improve financial? One of the reasons that bank nationalization happened in India from the government side was financial inclusion only. The second option, suppose, is RRB, Regional Rural Bank. Of course, correct. The third option is differentiated banks, which is small finance bank and payment bank. Obviously correct. These are the steps that we have been taking. And improving financial literacy. Of course, correct. So these are the options. If you improve financial literacy, people will take more financial services because awareness will increase. So these type of questions you have to prepare. Then inclusive growth, development and growth. Demography. You understand, no? Demography you have to prepare from content of geography, where they will ask you what is mortality, total fertility rate, right? So infant mortality, all these things they will ask you. Maternal mortality rate. Is it out of 1,000? Is it out of 100? These definitions are asked in UPSC. Where will you find the standard details related to demography? In geography books. You'll easily find it. So I suggest that for demography, instead of relying on economics book, you should rely on geography books because they give far better definitions related to that. Yes, human geography, absolutely, got me. It's there in the NCERT. Employment, unemployment. If you are my student of either of my programs, whatever programs I take, you understand that I literally torture you guys when I teach you employment and unemployment. For so many lectures, I teach employment and unemployment. And if you are my GS students, I have given you a video where I've discussed everything related to employment, unemployment, skill, and all those things. So you should update yourself. If you frankly ask me, how much time will it take to update yourself for employment and unemployment for prelims? Hardly 2 hours. 2 hours. That's it. And you can answer any question. Can I show you a sample? One sample? Let's do one sample. So suppose that I ask you a question. What is the female labor force participation rate of India currently? Labor force participation rate of female, do you remember it? So suppose that you don't remember. Example, so for some reason you don't remember. Then a question will come to my mind if I'm a student that, okay, we understand that India has a lot of discrimination, gender bias. So if I know the male, I'll know the female. So whatever is true for male, the female position would be almost like half or close to that. So the male participation rate is roughly around, let's say 72%. Female will be somewhere around 35 to 40, correct? The moment I know that female participation rate is less, then the question that UPSC might ask me is, Acha, in which areas female are participating more in work? Are they participating in rural area or urban area? Strange, rural area. Rural area, that's a strange thing. So if female are participating more in rural area, then the next question that will come to mind is, where in rural area? Agriculture feminization has happened. And the second is, then I'll find, okay, in agriculture they are working, but only from agriculture, labor force participation rate cannot increase. Because in agriculture, we have disguised unemployment. MSMEs, is food textile. The question arises, why rural India? 52% of India's MSME in rural India. Again, see data and fact. And second is, if you are a woman and you are to agriculture to food processing, the liberty of flexible timings. In corporate sector, to 70 hours work. In corporate sector, they will not, 90 hours these days. In corporate sector, they will not leave you. But in agriculture, the female says that, see, I participate more in agriculture has happened. The reason being, I have to take care of my husband, my children, my grandparents, my in-laws, everybody in the house I have to take care. So I'll go in the agricultural field, I'll work from morning till afternoon, then I'll go and cook food, I'll feed the entire family, I'll come back and work again. Actually, that is the reason which came out in the survey done by Government of India, that women are saying that's the reason we prefer to go to agriculture MSME, flexible time, plus we can be a part of care economy also. Care economy. Okay. That's the reason that women prefer to go in these areas. You see the connection now. Now, if somebody will ask you that what is unemployment rate of India? Roughly 3.2%, 3.1%. What is the youth unemployment rate of India? More than 10%. Youth unemployment 10%, overall unemployment 3%. Wow. Which means that there is a problem in the youth employment in India. Government is not able to provide employment to youth. What is the problem? Then a research was done to find out why exactly is the youth suffering. Guess the result. The result is higher the level of education, less is the job opportunity. But where did the job opportunity go? If not here, where? Yeah, it went outside India. Why? We never promoted manufacturing. And whatever manufacturing is there, they are saying we don't need PhDs. We need normal people. So I got my skill and education thinking that I'll get a job. First of all, those jobs are not there. Whatever jobs are there, I'm a PhD in finance. I'm looking for a job. I went to a company. That company asked me a question. That company asked me, what do you mean by hedge funds? That company asked me, what is the difference between private equity and venture capital? I blacked out. I said, I don't know. The company will tell me, beta, you are educated. Of course, degree is there. But you don't have the right knowledge which suits us. So sorry, can't employ. Structural unemployment. See the problem? This is happening in India, which means whatever knowledge the school and college is providing to us, not sufficient, not according to industry standards. So did UPSC ask this question last year mains? Yes, they did. Most of the unemployment in India is structural in nature. Justify. So these type of questions are asked in prelims also, in mains also. So that's what you have to prepare here. So now do you understand that you don't have to prepare this for mains? You have to prepare this for prelims also. Basic things, facts. So if you are my GS student, that video must be available. I think the video number must be 24. Check video number 24, you'll find that. All the updates related to employment. Achha, when you prepare employment, unemployment, should you also prepare all the schemes related to skill development in India? 100% yes. Now it's our duty to prepare skill development related schemes, and number two, insurance, all the schemes related to insurance and pension. Things should prepare. Pension, skill, and schemes. How many schemes are there which I have taught in my current affairs classes and to you guys in GS through videos? I have given you almost like 20 schemes, something around 20 schemes, 15, 20 schemes are there. So if you watch all the videos, you will find a list of all 10, 15, 20 schemes, whatever is relevant. So if you memorize those 10 to 20 schemes with some latest addition from the new budget, your job is done. You are good to go for UPSC. At least 3-4 questions can be taken care of. It's easy. I'm telling you, it's free marks. See, in 5 minutes, if you could discuss employment, unemployment, imagine if you put 1 hour, how much can you study? You just need those notes, problem solved. So don't take it lightly. This is qualitative area of economics. They will ask you question from here. That's the next part. Next is labor reform, pension, insurance, unorganized sector, and EPFO. What has the government done 2 days back? Access the EPFO portal and correct all the wrong things that is mentioned about you. Make all the corrections. Public is free to make corrections in the EPFO. Wow. It's a big thing. So don't you think it's in the news? It's in the news. Now it will be in UPSC exam also in some form. So that's why now I have to study about EPFO as well. So labor reforms, you have to study pension, insurance, and unorganized sector related schemes. Like for example, if somebody will ask you, what is the scheme related to unorganized sector? E-Saksham. E-Saksham. What happens under E-Saksham? The government of India maintains a record of all the unorganized sector people in India, workers in unorganized sector, and free skill development programs are provided to them so that their position in the labor market will also improve. Gig workers, absolutely. So, there is something called gig workers, platform workers. So you have to prepare that also for UPSC in employment and unemployment. Now you have to prepare industries, bacho. See, for economics, you have to prepare industries. What do you need to prepare in industries? According to me, for prelims, you need to prepare schemes related to industries like Make in India, PLI. Then you have to prepare MSME and related schemes. Then you have to prepare Startup India. You have to prepare public sector enterprises and disinvestment. That's it for this year prelims. That should be good enough. For mains, there are many more things. For prelims, good enough. So basically, they will ask you these things in prelims. Make in India and PLI to be emphasized. Now, public finance. In public finance, there are 2 parts. First is fiscal policy. Second is taxation. What is the meaning of fiscal policy? The policy related to revenue and expenditure of the government is called fiscal policy. So there they will ask you basic questions. How is the budget made? Under which article is the annual financial statement presented in the parliament? Then they will ask you that, what do you mean by appropriation bill? These are the questions that will be asked from this theoretical question. Slightly more practical question would be, which are the 3 documents which are released along with annual financial statement? 3 more documents are released. They'll ask you the name. Then they will tell you that out of all the indicators, for example, fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit, budgetary deficit, which one is used for policy purposes? Like which rate in India is used for policy purpose? Repo rate and treasury bill rate. Similarly, they will ask you which measure is used for inflation, policy making related to inflation, CPI headline. They might ask you this question, that which measure of budgetary deficit, there are some budgetary deficits in India, like fiscal deficit, primary deficit is used for primarily for policy purposes. So in India, there are 3 things which encasing committee told us to focus upon. One is fiscal deficit, one is revenue deficit, and one is public debt. So we have to study all those things from here. You might have studied in the newspaper something called as public debt. What is public debt? Right? There must be some components of public debt. When did this concept of public debt get changed in India? Was there an year when public debt concept was changed? Yes, of course. 2017. The concept of public debt changed in India. Before 2017, 2 things were called as public liability. What are the 2 things called as public liability before 2017? First is public debt, and the second is public accounts. These 2 were called as public liability together. But from 2018, definition changed. Because of whom? N.K. Singh. Dr. N.K. Singh said, no, this is wrong. This is not complete definition. Then we started to include 3 things in public liability. First, public debt. The second is public accounts. And the third is extra budgetary resources. The money that is borrowed by public sector enterprises in India. And public sector enterprise money which is borrowed is not taken into fiscal deficit. So new definition of government liability or public liability is the total liability of the government, including public debt. Public debt means, for example, government borrows through treasury bills. That's public debt. Government borrows from, let's say, World Bank. That's public debt. So public debt plus public account, national small saving certificate, post office saving, public accounts, pension, insurance, public accounts. And the third is extra budgetary resources. These 3 together is called government liability. They will ask you this question. That which of the following is the component of government liability? Absolutely current affairs. So study all the things from here. This will be technical. So if I were you, how will I study this part? I'll take a piece of paper. I will write all the formulas taught to me in the class, and whatever I can find in yellow book or whatever reference book I'm using, I'll create a list of formulas. And guys, I did that. For myself, I've done it. And all the formulas could be written in 3 pages. Done. Entire fiscal policy I could write in 3 pages with proper spacing. So if I have that formula from various sources, I'll create a formula. I am appearing in test series also. I means as a student. And in test series also, I'm getting something related to fiscal policy. I'll just write it in these 3 pages, 2 pages, and I'll staple it. That will be my page for prelims. Whether I'm appearing this year or some of your juniors are also there watching it. So they want to appear next year. How will the formula change? Formula will be same. So if you do this kind of work, it will become relevant for you. So for fiscal policy, don't go too deep creating very big theories. Just create a list of formula. That should be good enough for you. So for fiscal policy, list of formulas and concepts. And here taxation. Taxation, what will you study? You should study direct tax. You should study indirect taxes. Indirect taxes, you should study, direct taxes, you should study what are the principles of taxation called as canons of taxation. So that you should study. For example, the canon of equality and fairness, efficiency, cost, all these things you should study. Then you should study what is the meaning of, listen to it carefully, what is the meaning of tax base, what is the meaning of, for example, tax evasion, tax planning, tax avoidance, tax mitigation, all these things you have to prepare for fiscal policy and taxation. These terms are tax buoyancy, tax elasticity. This word buoyancy and elasticity almost asked every second year. What is Laffer curve? That will also be asked from taxation. Once you complete all this, then you should prepare 2-3 more concepts. What is the meaning of tragedy of commons? Then you should, because that question was asked, it is a part of taxation only. So then you should study what is the meaning of progressive and regressive tax. Which tax is progressive, which is regressive? This is also asked in UPSC. Then you should make a list of all the direct taxes of India. So for example, corporate income tax, personal income tax, MAT, then tax on startups, then tax on cooperatives, security transaction, all these things you have to make. Then you should go a little deeper into finding out what is the cess and surcharge imposed over various individuals and various companies in India. If you look at the corporate tax structure, do you know how many types of corporate tax structure are there in India? One rate is 15%, one is 22%, one is 25%, and one is 30%. There are 4 rates. And for all the 4 rates, the amount of cess and surcharge is different. Cess is fixed 4%, surcharge is different. So you should know that as well. Similarly, what is the tax rate on cooperatives? Tax rate on cooperatives is fixed, but the cess is also fixed, surcharge is different. So if you are a cooperative whose earning is between 1 to 10 crore, a different surcharge. More than 10 crore, different surcharge. These are the latest developments which has happened in the 2024 budget. Obviously, this will be asked. So if you pay, so do you feel that it's very lengthy preparation? No, preparation is not lengthy. It's just that we don't know which points to prepare. I promise you one thing, one example. We can do one pilot project. So for example, if I give you a list of what to prepare for direct taxes, if I start to dictate that to you, within 10 minutes, you'll get the entire list. It will take you another half an hour when you go back home to find it out from internet and you'll be done. That's it. And there cannot be any new question from there. It's fixed. It's just that you should know which points to study and done. So what will happen in the next budget, 2025 budget? Some numbers will change. But how can the list change? If in the list I'm writing corporate tax structure has 4 slabs in India, 1, 2, 3, 4. The government has already announced that I will not change the slab, I'll just change the rates. Nothing else. The division will be there. I'll change the rates. Easy. Once you have the division, you can change the rate from 20% to 18%, something like that. It's easy. Which means that if you want to really prepare for these kind of exams for prelims, and if you have less time, can you complete entire economy or polity in 15 days? 100% you can do that. But you need to get your listing right. And for that listing, you have 2 options. Option number 1, contact your faculties, be in touch with them. So whosoever are your respective faculties for different subjects, stay in touch with them. Nobody will say no to you. Everybody will help you. And that's the reason I called you in today's lecture, because I thought that I'll tell you a jugaad for self-study. So jugaad for self-study is immediately create a list, get it verified from the faculty, sit at home and prepare. But suppose that you are not our student. Example, suppose some of you who have participated in this discussion, suppose you are not our student, and suppose you don't have access to any other faculty, then you will have to officially join any program that you feel like in India, whatever current affairs program suits you, join it. But make sure that you join under the right hand so that that listing is never wrong. But if you are our student, you have both the options. Sit at home, prepare the list, get it verified from us and study. Who will say no to you? If we see you working hard, why will we not help you? Of course we will. Because to create a list, it will take you 2 hours. To verify, it will take us 5 minutes. Of course, we'll give you that 5 minutes. But you need to prepare the list. So, again, how do you prepare the list? I'll tell you simple jugaad. You take yearly compilation of the magazine that you have, the current affairs magazine. And there, if you see a keyword, for example, tax incidence, mark it, write it. For example, tax elasticity, please write it. And if you see the word cess and surcharge, write it. GST compensation cess, you please write it. Counter cyclical capital buffer, write it. Right, there is something called as counter cyclical fiscal policy. Write that word, please. When do you use that policy? Abhi currently, India was not doing well in terms of GDP. Tell me something, guys. I have a question for you. If there is some crisis in our life, so should we call the parents or friends and say that I'm not well and should you expect little more support? Or should you expect less support during crisis? What do you want? During crisis, you want more support, less support? More support. And especially during February, do you want little more pocket money, less pocket money? More pocket money. Why? Expenses are high. So will you call your parents and say, Mom and Dad, little extra pocket money, please, extra class? Yeah, you might. Yeah, it happens sometimes. Parents also understand this because they have attended such extra classes. So they will release some cash for you. See, what is happening when things are not right? Some tragedy is there in my life. I need emotional support. So when economy is not doing well, recently our GDP fell. What did the government do? RBI do? Reduce the CRR. What will happen? More money will be released in the economy. And what did government do? Government said, I will make more roads. Okay. When things are not fine, government is overspending. That's called counter-cyclical fiscal policy. Whenever things are not right, you spend more. And when things are right, government will put the hand in the pocket and say, I'm not going to spend because everything is fine. So you understood, no? What is counter-cyclical fiscal policy? During COVID, which policy did India follow? Counter-cyclical fiscal policy. This term is there in the news. After the CRR thing which happened, no, CRR got reduced. This term is there. If you read the current affairs magazine, you'll find these words. You just have to prepare all this. And who has said that countries should follow counter-cyclical fiscal policy? Basel norms also says this, that during difficult times, if you are overspending, it's fine. FRBM Act also says this. What is the name of that technical term where FRBM says you can overspend a little during difficult times? It is called as buoyancy clause under FRBM Act, which is given by Dr. N.K. Singh Committee in 2017-18, and that is called as buoyancy clause. N.K. Singh sir says that if your economy is not doing well, then do not need to maintain fiscal deficit target. You can have 0.5% leverage, extra fiscal deficit you can incur, no problem. Fiscal deficit means borrowing. So borrow more, no problem, it's fine. But when things are good, reduce the borrowing. So first is called as escape clause and second is called as buoyancy clause. Under escape clause, what do? You borrow and spend more. And under buoyancy clause, what do? If economy is doing well, buoyancy means economy is doing well, then don't borrow. Under escape clause, economy is not doing well, borrow more, escape the problem. So escape and buoyancy clause. Now come back, please. So in taxation, did you understand what do you have to study? In GST, what do you need to study? 2-3 things. So first of all, what is the nature of GST? Dual GST. For example, there is SGST, CGST, IGST. Who collects which GST and which GST is distributed? This list should be there with you. Then there should be a list of slabs with you. 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%, 3%, 0.25%. All these slabs should be there with you. And then you should find out what is the meaning of zero tax in GST and what is the meaning of tax exemption, what is the meaning of nil tax. These 3 terms should be clear to you. Then there is something very interesting which says that how is GST imposed? So GST is imposed over supply. What is the meaning of supply? See the problem? Because we all the time are told that GST is imposed on goods and services. Absolutely incorrect. GST is imposed over supply of goods and services. So real thing is not goods and services. Real thing is supply of goods and services. How do you define supply? So Government of India says that if, sorry to use this example, but this is one of the exceptions, so I have to use it. So two exceptions I'll use. So for example, let's say that I have supplied this pen to you, you give me the money. So that's GST is applicable because supply of goods has happened. But suppose that there has been a loss of life. During COVID, it happened. Loss of life were lost. So suppose that somebody is doing the cremation of a person who has lost the life. For that, you are buying a few things. GST not applicable because government says, I am giving exception. That thing is not called supply. Whatever things you are buying for the last rites of a person, it's outside supply. And there are 3-4 exceptions like this. That's one exception. So if I know this, I know, okay, supply has exceptions. Second exception is, I'm working for somebody. I'm working in a factory. I'm getting salary. But since I'm giving my services to that person every day, so can the Government of India come and say, oh, you are giving services, GST? You are taking income tax from me. Why will you take GST? Income tax is given for that purpose only. So government says when somebody is doing a job, working for somebody, we are already taking income tax from the income. So GST will not be applied to that person. Because GST says, GST will be applied over supply of goods and services. So I'm giving my services to somebody. So will the government come and say, pay income tax plus GST both? No. Government said, no, don't pay GST. You are an employee of a company. So we are taking income taxes from you. That's it. If you are an employee, just give income tax. No need to give GST. So did you see that supply word is not that easy? You have to find out the definition of supply and then you have to study the exceptions of supply. This question has never been asked in UPSC. So if I frame a question or somebody smartly wants to frame a question, they will ask you this question. What is supply? What are the exceptions? How do these things we study? We study from current affairs. Why? Because these things keep on changing. Government keeps on making amendment. That acha last rights wala cheez, don't put it under supply. Because society will react badly, people will feel bad. Because that's already a tragedy. Uske upar in the tragedy, you are asking for GST. How unethical. So that's why you will see that these things will be covered. A lot of things will come in current affairs, right? This should be your focus. So that's what you should study under GST, and you should also study that is GST applicable over export, import, which article of the Constitution was altered to make a provision for GST, and how many amendments were made in the Constitution for GST. Which amendment is the biggest amendment for taxation in India related to GST, and under that amendment, how many clauses are there? Which list of the Constitution gives power to the center to impose GST, and which list of the Constitution gives state the power to impose the same GST? Right? Why? Because there is something beautiful about Constitution. Constitution says that the division of taxes between center and state is given only in 2 places. 7th schedule, it is given in union list and state list. In concurrent list, nothing was mentioned about the distribution of tax. So in concurrent list, tax powers were not discussed. But when GST came, GST said, no. We have to give equal power to center and state to make changes in GST. Okay, for the first time, we are observing some sort of concurrency. But what is the nature of this concurrency? So this is your polity part. These are the things that you need to prepare here. Why? Because these are the things that keep on changing. Has something changed related to GST recently? Hannah, there is one change. So a change has happened because there were many people, if you're my student, you'll already know it. So there are many people who buy some goods and services from MSMEs. They don't make the payment and they claim GST benefits. So government has made changes and says, now you can't. Right? Which means that, yeah, it's evolving. It's becoming better day by day. Then there is something called inverted duty structure. That's such a weird thing. Under inverted duty structure. Do you want to see that or you know it already? Then I won't waste your time. So under, you know it, right? Okay. So under inverted duty structure, you understand that the tax on inputs is higher than the tax on output. And that creates a problem of refund. You have to study and prepare that. What is that refund process? So there are a few things that you need to prepare here. Now, next one is this money and banking. Absolute favorite of UPSC. So in money and banking, what do you need to do? You need to prepare the basics. What are the different types of banks? What are the different types of bank? Universal bank, then differentiated bank and cooperatives. 3 types of banks. universal, scheduled and non-scheduled, then cooperatives, and then differentiated banks. What are differentiated banks? Payment banks and small finance bank, local area bank. And then you have all India development financial institutions like NABARD, EXIM, all these things, right? SIDBI. So you have to prepare them. Then it is said credit creation. What is credit creation? How does bank create money, multiply the money? RBI creates the money and banks multiply the money. There is something called high-powered money, reserve money, narrow money, broad money. You have to memorize the definitions. This you will have to do. And then you have reserves. So CRR, SLR. So make a list when you prepare for this economics, for this year. You please make a list like this, the way I'm telling you this. So you please write the institutions here, like banks, NBFCs, etc. Then on one side, you should write CRR. On the other side, you should write SLR. Then you should write CAR norms, capital adequacy ratio, that who has to maintain what capital adequacy ratio. Create that. This is the list that you should create. And then you should write who is covered under priority sector lending. If you have this master sheet, you do not need to worry for prelims. A lot of questions are asked from this master sheet. So what do you need to write? I'll give an example. Suppose that you are writing scheduled commercial bank like HDFC. So then you have to write that, yes, CRR of 4% applicable, SLR 18% applicable, 9% CAR is applicable, and then you can write priority sector lending 40% applicable. Done. So if they ask you NBFCs, you should include NBFCs also. If you make a list like this, then for prelims, you'll be taken care of. You'll never get confused. This list is required to crack prelims. Right? So this is what you should do for current affairs. This is precisely what we do in current affairs. So you see all the name of the banks. So on left side, you have to write all the institutions. On the right side, these things. Acha, what is UPSC and competitive exams doing these days? Very deadly thing. I'll show you. You dekh rahe ho, this capital adequacy ratio. So can you please tell me what are the components of capital adequacy ratio? Tier 1, Tier 2. What is the component of Tier 1? CET1 and AT1 bonds. That's the component. All these things together are called as capital adequacy ratio. So Basel norms have specified some CAR 8%. The Reserve Bank of India says for private banks of India 9%. For public sector banks and NBFCs, higher. So this figure you have to memorize for all the banks of India. And in that figure, you know what you have to memorize? You have to memorize what is CET1 for public sector banks, CET1 for NBFCs, CET1 for private banks. You'll have to memorize all these things. This will be asked in current affairs. This will be asked in static area also. UPSC will not spare you from here. This is the minimum that you will have to do for UPSC. So that's number one, okay? And after this, in Basel norms, you have to add something called as CCB and CCYB. So what is this? CAR 8%, CCB 2%, sorry, 2.5%, and this is 0 to 2.5%, which means as per Basel, you have to follow three things: CAR, CCB, and CCYB. This India follows. This also India follows 10.5. But in India, it is 11.5. We are far ahead of Basel. Third one, we don't follow. RBI says not required. So third one, we have not triggered under Basel 3. India has, in principle, approved it that yes, we will when the time comes. But these two we strictly follow. So in this list, in front of the banks, you have to write these numbers, that for which bank, which number is true. This type of list is called prelims preparation material. So if you are reading 30 pages on banking before your prelims, wastage of time. Question will not be asked from there. But if you are studying this sheet which you prepare for yourself, 100% question will be asked from there. Some questions will be asked which are conceptual in nature. Like when CRR goes down, what are the benefits? This your notes will help you. Class notes, content material, whatever was taught in the class, it will help. This thing, self-help. You will have to help yourself. So how do you create these things? From your magazine or from whatever was taught in the class, you should create this. Now, and if you face any difficulty in doing this, just let us know. So this is your money and banking. Basal I already told you, rates I already told you. Now balance of payment. In BOP, I believe basics will be asked. If you frankly ask me in BOP, I don't think that too much of difficult things or too much of current affairs in prelims. It might be, but my mind says that too much of current affairs in BOP is not possible. They can ask you some things like whether the export of electronic has increased or not, basic current affairs, but not very complicated. Rate of exchange, deadly questions can be asked. Very difficult questions can be asked because rate of exchange is connected to inflation. So currently what is happening? Rupee depreciation. Depreciation is connected to inflation. And depreciation is also connected to increase in export. So depreciation is leading to two things. See, rupee is depreciating. Because of that, there is a fear of inflation. And number two, our exports might increase. So if inflation is also increasing, export is also increasing, should I be happy or sad? You see the problem? That's my question. That is what UPSC will ask you. That which of the following are the impacts of depreciation of currency? Tendency of inflation, increase in export, and third, overall economic growth. I don't know overall economic growth. That part is debatable. But yes, inflation will be there, export will increase. This is for sure. But whether overall economic growth happens, I don't know. Why? Because it might happen that the negative impact of inflation is higher and we have nothing to export. That could be a problem. So overall economic growth, I don't know. Very dicey. But these two, I know for sure. This will be the conceptual part. So from rate of exchange and inflation, you should prepare it very well. This, you should prepare the basics. So here the headache is slightly less. Capital market and foreign investment, top favorite of UPSC. Absolute favorite of UPSC. There is no question about it. So whatever you have studied in capital market and whatever you have studied in foreign investment, revise it from word to word, cover to cover. Whatever notes you have made, everything should be revised. This is high question area from UPSC perspective in last 2 years. So this I would suggest, take it seriously. Infrastructure, just schemes, nothing else. So some basic schemes I have seen in last 2 years being asked from budget. From class teaching, I have not seen much question in prelims from infrastructure. I have seen questions in prelims from infrastructure only from survey and budget. So that can be handled with the videos which I provide. And then from multilateral development banks, you have your World Bank, IMF, WTO, Asian Development Bank, AIIB, plus some institutions, global institutions and groupings like G20, etc. So that should be good enough. So this is what I feel, that if you want a detail of what to prepare for economics, this should be the detail. So this is what you have to prepare for prelims. So how many points did we write? Roughly 12. These 12 points. So, and this part I have already shown you. Did I show you this? No. Is there in the news? Current affairs. So let's see. Let's read a question. GST compensation cess is imposed on. Question, current affairs. So GST compensation cess to compensate the states. So where is the GST compensation cess imposed? First is automobile, second is sin goods, third is aerated water. Aerated water means fizzy water, right? So where do you impose the GST compensation cess? Sin goods. Sin and aerated both. These two, right? So factual from current affairs part. Now, do you remember the strategy which I gave you? Chalo, let's go back. So let's come here. This strategy, right? Can you see this strategy? Now here, as I was telling you, that sin goods are the goods which create negative impact upon your health or society, like cigarettes, tobaccos, etc. Sin goods. Now, if you look at this strategy, have a look at it, please. I'll come out of the frame. So I told you that this is one rough strategy which you can create, a raw strategy for yourself, but you can customize it based on what your strength area is. I'll give an example. Suppose I have history background. So what I'll do is, I'll first prepare history and culture and the science tech wala block. Why? because if I take a lead and I prepare it very fast, I'll be able to save 5 days here. That will boost my confidence. And that 5 days that I save, I'll spend 2 days in MCQs. And remaining 3 days, I'll put in a subject in which I'm not good. So always start here in this block, always start with the block which gives you more confidence, so that initially only you can save some days. Do not make a mistake of ignoring CSAT. So in CSAT, I have a funda. If I were you, I would have done this. If my CSAT is not good, see what I'll do. When I follow this 92 plus 6 days strategies, every day I'll keep aside 1 hour. Every day. In that 1 hour, I'll just open the CSAT book, solve 5 questions, 2 questions, 3 questions. So imagine if somebody is solving CSAT every day 1 hour for 123 days. Divide 123 by 24, you will get 5.12, which means 5 days. If I solve CSAT 1 hour every day for next 4 months, add 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, it becomes 5 days. Bonus, 5 days of CSAT I have already done. Why? Because I studied 1 hour, 1 hour, half an hour every day. And then I'm keeping 11 days extra. So if I study 1 hour every day, it becomes 5 days and 11 days, 16 days of CSAT. That can be done if I'm not good in CSAT. But if I'm good in CSAT, I'll study CSAT in between, somewhere where I feel the time is right for me. That customization you should do. If you feel you should start with CSAT, start with CSAT. Because this 11 day, you have to give somewhere. Don't take chances, huh? Once you do this, then what is the idea of preparing for mains? I'll tell you. Don't you feel that 30, 40, 50% part of what you will prepare for prelims will create the base for mains? It will. It will. And fortunately, I can tell you, I mean, we didn't have a big role there, but I can tell you with a lot of pride again, just like parents feel so proud of you when you achieve something. So similarly, your faculties also feel very proud of you. It motivates us. That's our only motivation. So otherwise, it won't be possible for us to be involved with you if you are not motivated. So you are motivated. Equally, we are also motivated on this side for the result. So one of the motivations which came, the high point of this year was that Vajiram is conducting some mock interviews. So I didn't have any idea about how many students from the current GS batches or our current affairs batches have qualified. So once I was going and having a one-to-one with the students who were appearing in the mock tests, and I realized that I could find on the first day itself 2 students, next day 4 more. So I could see from the classroom 6 students from the current GS batches who appeared for the first time in UPSC, and they are right there knocking at the door and saying interview time. So did I meet them earlier? 2 of them I did not. 4 of them in my current affairs class. So when they came to me, they told me, as I told you, same story, that we used to just talk to different faculties for prelims, but after prelims, we thought that our mains preparation is next to zero. What to do? So for that, we started with a strategy. We spent almost like 6-7 hours every day, 6 hours almost every day. And with some students who are there with us since their prelims days only. So since the prelims time, just like I'm sharing the strategy with you for the first time, I'm doing this with you in the workshop. Last year, I did it with a closed group of students just for the GS batch. So we didn't open it. We just did it for the GS batch. Whosoever required the help, we provided it. But this year, we thought that our online, offline students, whosoever needs the help, we are keeping it open for you. I showed you some things like that table for banking and money. I showed you a few things related to taxes that you need to do this. I told you about the budget and survey. So if you feel that anything is bothering you, so your faculties are there with you. If you want to go for self-studies, that's the first thing that we promote. At least at a very personal level, I feel the best thing for a UPSC preparation after you take your GS classes. So I feel one should always take a GS and optional class. It helps you to streamline the preparation. That's it. And after that, if you feel that you do not need any class, trust me, you do not need any class. But if sitting at home troubles you and if you feel that my studies are being compromised, I need people around me or motivation, etc., be it online or offline, then only you should go for a class. Otherwise, I would strongly suggest, and it's a very honest confession, I'm always on your side first. So I believe that if you want to go for self-study, I'm with you. And if you feel any problem, anything that bothers you, you don't know how to create the sheets, let us know. We'll have another such session. But the moment it The moment it starts to feel overwhelming, that no idea, then you should reach out in a different way. But if you feel that it's manageable, prefer self-study. It helps, right? So your friend is saying, okay, tell me anything that you want to know from here, or is it fine? Because today I decided that I will not be teaching you anything. Today I wanted to discuss on these lines, and I wanted to focus upon those small tables which you need to prepare for different topics in economics. So if you feel that you need little more help in other subjects, you should wait for the next part of this series only. It will happen very soon, in 1 or 2 days, I guess. You'll get the notification. So maybe in that polity will be discussed, some other subject will be discussed. But one by one, we'll make sure that this week we cover everything so that you will have an idea. And then our entire team will be available. My current affairs team will be available to you. If you feel any problem, we are there. So let me take 1 or 2 questions from there, and then if you have anything, I'll take it. Yes, I'll take the budget. For block 1, economy, shall we prepare current affairs? Yes, good question. Your friend is asking that suppose for block 1, I'm preparing economics and I'm spending 15 days in economics. How should you spend the 15 days? I have a solid jugaad for that. So for example, let's say that I'm studying money and banking. What will I do if I'm doing self-study? Okay. See, I told you my priority will be to tell you about self-study, but if it doesn't work for you, then you join a current affairs program anywhere you feel like, not an issue. But let me focus on self-study part. So suppose that I'm sitting in my study room with my economics notes, and I feel I'm doing banking. Immediately when the banking chapter is over, I should open the 6 months of or yearly compilation material of current affairs, and I should open the banking area. And I should try to see that whatever I have covered in my notes and whatever is given in the magazine, is there a drastic difference? Because in magazines, if there are these many new things I haven't covered, then in that magazine, I will try to find out which are those 30-40% things from that magazine part, yearly compilation, which I should integrate in, and that 30% I should integrate. Because after going through the theory part once, my mind will tell me what is important, what is not. This idea will come to you. So you should integrate current affairs while you are preparing this 15 days, because later on you will not get time. Some people will give you strategy by saying, here you spend only 20 days, save 10 days for current affairs. But my idea is slightly different, that when you prepare banking, why to return to banking all over again? So when you are doing banking, just open 5 pages of current affairs and see if you can add on something and get it over. So that later on, when you go in stage 2, it's only revision, and there will be no headache. Is that fine? So this strategy, I think, could help you. So if you are doing only monthly magazine, you should stick to it because you have already done that. But if you have not done your monthly magazine, then I suggest that you do the yearly compilation. But in few things, let me tell you this. Like if you go to any parents and ask them that who is your favorite child, the parent will tell you, my child is my favorite. I have 2 children. One is you, and one being an author and being a faculty, the content that I prepare, that's very close to me. So before I became a faculty, I was an author, and then I used to write a lot. So that thing is still there. So when I prepare content, no. So more than a faculty, that author comes out. So I really love the content work, etc., which I do out of passion. I really love it. I don't take anybody's help there. So if you ask me, just like a guardian, I have 2 children. One is you, and one is my content. So if you ask me who is your favorite, 2, you and content. So if you ask me which content should you study for, let's say, the Multilateral Development Bank, my content. Shamelessly, I'll say read it. But if you ask me which content should I study for current affairs, I can tell you our content is, of course, good, but others are also not bad. Honest answer. But in a few things, I believe that if you have access to those content, it will really save your time. I tell you this. So that's the reason that I started to increase my role in current affairs, because I really love that part. Analyzing that part, teaching that part, it gives another kind of happiness. So I thought to share some insights with you today. For more insights, you will definitely find us in the economic survey and budget session. I'll definitely meet you guys. And there also I can tell you that that content is my favorite because we put a lot of time. We are not the first one to make the video, of course, but the video that we'll make will help you till the last stage of your exam, till the interview stage. That I can assure you. But we'll not be the first one, because these documents take time to be studied. No rush. If we take 10 days, we'll take 10 days. But I'll definitely see you. in the budget and survey, right? So for a few things, follow the advice. It will really help. Like that sheet. Where should you create the sheet? Banking, capital market, money market, and taxation. You should create that sheet. So create a list of all the taxes. I'll tell you how to do it. Left side taxes, right side whether it is direct or indirect tax. Third, what is the rate? And fourth, who collects that tax? Center or state? If you create this column, your taxation is done for prelims. All right. So this is how you should prepare. And if you have any doubts, then this, if you are available in Vajiram, you can come and meet. Physically, my presence is little less these days because I'm taking little more classes, and especially the current affairs classes. It consumes a lot of time, but whenever I'm available in Vajiram, when I'm not inside the class, I'll be there to meet you. That's not an issue at all. So if you are around, you definitely catch up. But otherwise, if you want to save your time, this is the best one. Third option is you come to the Vajiram office, first floor, 7B, and you just need to meet any of our counselors and tell them that you want to meet somebody from the current affairs team. That's it. So if you want any help related to your preparation of current affairs or static area, whatever it is, especially current affairs, you go to the first floor of Vajiram, you call the office if you are online, 2 options, tell them that I need help from your current affairs team to strategize my preparation. Done. That's it. That's what you need to say. We'll be there. Right? So everybody from our team will be there to help you. That's it. So guys, GS batch, you already have the notes. You haven't just seen the notes. Video number 24. ऐसा होता है, like we don't value people who are in the family. We value neighbors little more. Neighbor is very good, right? Sometimes look at your family also. I'm kidding. So semester exams. So I'll tell you, Rahul, that you should focus more on semester exams first because that should be done well. Current affairs batch over, will it contain the same current affairs course also in it? No. Our current affairs batch is not over. In fact, it's starting on the 4th of Feb. So it's not over. It will start the crash course for current affairs. So all the strategies which I'm going to follow there, I thought I'll share it with you. If you want to do self-study, use the strategy. It will help you. And in between, whenever you are stuck, reach out to us. We are there to help. So, oh, you cleared the prelims. RK, nice. How about mains? Thank you so much. How about mains? Mains was a problem. Not an issue. You please, if you are available offline, you contact us. We'll sit and create a strategy for you. But if you're online, write a mail. We'll make sure we connect. Okay, you're not a part of our economics program or GS program. I knew that many of you are not from our GS courses. Not an issue. You drop in the office, first floor, Vajiram. You tell them to connect with our team of current affairs faculties. You sit with us, spend half an hour, 1 hour. We'll help you with the strategy. That's not an issue. All right, guys. So wait for the second part. If you are interested for polity, etc., social sector schemes and everything, definitely will help you. So if you're leaving, thank you so much. If you have a doubt, you please stay. We'll have a talk. Let me take some questions there. But can you suggest me what is there? By interlinking static and current, I understood if I encounter, I just have to put it in the static portion of poverty. Is that correct? Absolutely correct. So for example, let's say that Government of India is saying that our poverty has come down to, let's say, 11% currently. Example. So if government is saying our poverty is 11%, according to which measure, which formula? Head count ratio, multidimensional poverty index. What are the components of multidimensional poverty index by UN? What are the components of multidimensional poverty index by Niti Aayog? These things you have to prepare. When will the prelim specific? Can we call him about the Abhishek? So guys, as I told you that my focus was to tell you how to prepare on your own if you are stuck. And if you want to meet our team, all the faculties are available, not an issue. And if you're not finding any way, just let me know. I'll connect you with the right faculties. But if you have any questions related to the current affairs program, etc., that will be taken by the somebody from our team. But as I told you that my focus was to share the strategy. And I was waiting for this opportunity to share some strategy for next few days with you. Because I know that to quite a lot of you whom I've been meeting, I've been telling you that please prepare for mains till 20th. After that, we'll talk about prelims, etc. So that day had come, so thought to meet you. Should we start finalizing data numbers from February? Of course not. Do one thing. For data, you completely rely on our handouts, which I provide you. I promise you, everything related to data will be provided through the economic survey and budget that we take. Absolutely, it will be covered. You do not need to do anything on your own, especially for the data part, because either you will overdo it or you will underdo it. So just wait for our lecture. It will help you. For other things, you do it on your own. Current affairs magazine, enough or I have to study. You please do the, if you are doing the magazine already, revise it from there. Otherwise, you do the compilation. No, I suggest that AS, please do not create any notes right now. If you want to create a flowchart, you should. Tables you should, but notes you should not. Tables you should. Diagrams and flowcharts you should. So I can give you one example. If, for example, let's say that somebody wants to create a notes out of, let's say, anything, counter-cyclical fiscal policy, for example, that how should fiscal policy be followed? How will I grade the notes? I'll draw this business cycle and I will write this. And I'll write this as boom. I will write this as recession. And here I'll create something like this. Just one minute. No, stay here only. Please stay here. And this one I will call as counter-cyclical fiscal policy. So whenever things are not there, if you want to promote it, it becomes counter-cyclical fiscal policy. One diagram, fiscal policy done. These things we will do before prelims. This we should do. But I'm not in favor of making any notes because it will make you tired. You won't be able to memorize and use it in MCQs. So don't exhaust yourself. Do these things. These are easy. And if you have to create a picture for example, that word inverted duty structure, I should create a picture like this, that import, and then, no, this is selling in the domestic market. And then I'll write a tax rate of 30% here, 10% here. I'll say this is inverted duty structure, something like this. So for UPSC, you should go through the class notes plus integrate current affairs in stage 1. This is important, guys. In the stages which I told you, in stage 1, current affairs should be integrated. That's why I'm asking you to spend 15 days and not 10 days. Otherwise, I would have told you 10 days. But integrate current affairs right there. Why? Because in stage 1, suppose if you feel that, no, I'm not able to do justice in 30 days, reach out to the faculties and tell that, hey, I am facing problem, please help. What to do for this part? Immediately course correction. But suppose that you keep everything for the end, we'll do the current affairs and you get stuck. Where is the time for course correction? So please do it in the beginning only, right? Will we be getting quick compilations? Of course, yes. Class 11th and 12th for NCRTs. Recordings will be provided for this class. I'm not sure. That our team will tell you. So first attempt is 26. Then you should immediately become a part in February. February, you should start your current affairs, because if your attempt is 26, as I already told you, 1.5 years is required. As you said for poverty. Yes, that's it, Vikas. Only that part. All right. So thank you so much. And wait for the next part, okay? So, and for those who want to find out about the current affairs, he'll explain it to you. But how many long? 1.5 years. 1.5 years. So thank you so much, guys, and take care. Yeah, I'll talk to you. Thank you.